A deadly knife attack in the German city of Solingen last week has reignited discussions on migration policy and fighting terrorism. The so-called Islamic State claimed responsibility for the attack, in which 3 people were killed. It has also prompted questions about how this group, which was defeated on the battlefield in Syria and Iraq a decade ago, still recruits members.
A city still in shock after the latest attack on European soil by a man associated with the so-called Islamic State. One of many attacks over the last year, while many more have been foiled by authorities. So how does IS keep recruiting people? And who are they? The answer lies in its history. The so-called Islamic State was a splinter group from al-Qaeda that, a decade ago, quickly took over vast stretches of Iraq and Syria. It declared an Islamic caliphate and was known for its brutality, sending out videos of its members beheading so-called infidels who had been captured. From its beginnings, it recruited young people from across the Middle East and Europe using propaganda videos that appealed to people who felt marginalized and in search of a purpose. It was defeated and driven out of its strongholds by an international coalition. But that was just the first chapter. While it was running into defeat on the battlefield, the group started a series of spectacular, deadly attacks in Europe, in Paris, Nice, Berlin, London. In many cases, the alleged perpetrators, many of whom died in shootouts with police, were radicalized online. Those carrying out the attacks were mainly young men. In recent years, many of them teenagers. Some had grown up in marginalized communities in France and Belgium. More recently, many have immigrated from Muslim-majority countries to Europe and then been denied asylum. IS propaganda, spread online via its own so-called news agency, encouraged their grievances. The group seeks to give troubled young people a sense of identity and a means to act on a sense of unfairness by giving them a chance to avenge the killings of Muslims by Western countries, or a way to kill those accused of disrespecting Islam. IS also provides instructions on how to carry out massacres. The war in Gaza has provided fresh material, with images of suffering Palestinians feeding the narrative of an unfair world for Muslims. IS also feeds on the divisions stoked by its own attacks, which fuel anti-immigrant and anti-Muslim sentiment, which can add to the sense of victimization and isolation in Muslim communities. The authorities and social media companies have taken note. Accounts linked to or supportive of IS have been removed from major platforms. But the group still recruits using the Telegram encrypted data app and on the dark web, where it has its own websites. That's created a game of cat and mouse with authorities, whose best chance to stop further attacks is to stop further radicalization.
Now, for a closer look, let's bring in Miriam Katharina Hess from the National Committee on Religiously Motivated Extremism here in Berlin. Now, terror has come back to Germany. Do we have to fear even more attacks?
It is always difficult to predict with certainty whether more attacks will occur, because ultimately we cannot look into people's minds and anticipate their actions, right? So therefore, 100% security, as sad as it is, we can never achieve. However, the attention, like you just said, that this recent attack created, it is exactly what extremists aim for. It's a key success factor for them as it fuels societal polarization.
Now, as we've heard, Islamic State has been around for quite a while now. And has there been any evolution in who joins IS in Europe?
So the recruitment strategies definitely have become much more sophisticated and tailored. So ISIS and similar Islamist groups, they're leveraging social media, which is a key space for youth interaction, which at the same time is their key target group. So they don't use a one-size-fits-all approach. Instead, they employ different strategies to appeal to different groups. So for example, girls are often lured more in with promises for a new life or a sense of belonging, while boys, on the other hand, might be targeted with narratives of adventure or some things that relate to heroism. So they additionally use both push and pull factors to exploit personal situations like a feeling for injustice, loneliness, or a search of identity.
Now, let's talk about the Gaza war for a moment. Do you think that has created a new recruiting opportunity, or will there always be some kind of cause that IS can use to recruit members?
I think it's a little bit of both. So conflicts like the one in Gaza, they certainly act as catalysts. However, it is important to note that Islamist groups have varying stances on Gaza and Hamas. For instance, of course, ISIS and Hamas are obviously not aligned. In fact, their ideologies, they differ significantly. But the broader impact of such conflicts is that they can inflame emotions and serve as a propaganda tool to which these groups then relate and use them to mobilize support by highlighting perceived injustices.
Miriam Katharina Hess there from the National Committee on Religiously Motivated Extremism. Thank you very much.